Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to NPS Connect. Class 7, Subject Science, Unit Dispersion of Light, Topic Critical Angle and Total Internal Reflection, Week 4, Lesson 2. Students' learning outcomes. By the end of the lesson, students will be able to define critical angle, describe total internal reflection, explain how total internal reflection is useful, explain the dispersion of light. What is critical angle? The critical angle is defined as the angle of incidence that provides an angle of refraction of 90 degrees. The light must travel from an optically more dense medium to an optically less dense medium. In optical physics, various phenomena are occurring as refraction, reflection, etc. The refraction event is the event for a change in direction of propagation of light due to the change in the transmission medium. If light enters a denser medium from a comparatively rarer medium, then the direction of light changes and the light ray bends towards the normal. This normal line is an imaginary perpendicular line drawn at the point of contact of light. In this article, one important measurement in this regard, it is a critical angle. Total internal reflection. If the angle of incidence is bigger than this critical angle, the refracted ray will not emerge from the medium, but will be reflected back into the medium. This is called total internal reflection. The conditions for total internal reflections are: light is traveling from an optically denser medium, means the higher refractive index, to an optically less dense medium, means the lower refractive index. The angle of incidence is greater than the critical angle. Here's in the picture we can see the light is not emerged, but it is reflected back, and the angle is greater than or the higher in the denser medium, and it is not emerged but it is reflected back. This is called the total internal reflection. Now, the how total internal reflection is useful. Total internal reflection is very useful. As a result, it has a number of applications that include diamonds. Essentially, faces of a diamond are cut in a manner that allows the light entering to fall at a given angle, which in turn results in multiple total internal reflections at various angles, while at the same time remaining within the diamond. So, that's how it results in a speckles. Next, fiber optics. An optic fiber is as thick as human hair. They are composed of fine quality glass or quartz fiber and coated with a thin layer of material with low reflective index. This has a number of uses which include fiber optic diagnostic tools, fiber optic cables used in telecommunication as in the endoscopes, where fiber optics are used by physicians to view inside the body. The third one is reflectors, and the reflectors are typically fixed on various roads where they are used to indicate bending roads, etc. They reflect light from headlights from cars, guiding the driver along the path. Next one is the definition of dispersion of light. Dispersion of light can be defined as a splitting of white light when it passes through a glass prism into its constituent spectrum of colors, for example, the violet, indigo, blue, green, yellow, orange, and red. What is the spectrum of light? Light spectrum can mean the visible spectrum, the range of wavelengths of electromagnetic radiation which our eyes are sensitive to, or it can mean a plot or chart or graph of the intensity of light versus its wavelength, or sometimes its frequency. So if we see in the diagram the visible spectrum, there are the range. The infrared lights, the highest range 700, 600. The red color has the highest range, and that is why this is called the infrared light or infrared rays. And the lowest range is a 400 or the blue, and the indigo has a lowest range of light of for the wavelength, and these are called the ultraviolet ray.
We previously discussed the electromagnetic spectrum, and if we zoom in on the visible portion, we see some familiar colors. The order of these colors can be remembered with the mnemonic Roy G. Biv. This stands for red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet, which lists the visible colors from lowest frequency to highest frequency. So how does this correlate with the colors of objects? Well, as it happens, most illuminated surfaces will absorb some light and reflect some light, depending on the material's properties. When reflection occurs, we can always define an angle of incidence and an angle of reflection, where the angles can be measured with respect to a vertical line perpendicular to the reflecting surface. And these angles will always be equal to one another. But, as we said, light can also be absorbed, and many materials will absorb only particular colors while reflecting others. The colors that are reflected are the ones we see. So when you see a green object, like a leaf, it's because green is the predominant color that is not absorbed, but rather reflected to meet your eyes, and not because there is some inherent greenness to the leaf. If an object absorbs all wavelengths of visible light, it will appear black. If it reflects all visible wavelengths, it will appear the same color as the light that is illuminating it. An interesting phenomenon is the way light bends as it travels from one medium to another. This is called refraction. If light goes from one transparent medium to another, like from air to water, the light ray changes direction at the boundary. The angle of incidence will be measured as we mentioned before, but instead of an identical angle of reflection, there is a new angle of refraction. This will happen anytime light's velocity changes, as light moves a little bit more slowly through water than air, which explains why objects in the water sometimes appear to be closer than they actually are. Light travels even a bit more slowly through glass. This is why a prism is able to split up white light into all the individual colors it contains, because when light hits the prism at an angle, the different wavelengths of visible light are slowed down by different degrees, and thus have slightly different angles of refraction. This causes the colors to fan out such that they are individually visible. Since white light can be refracted to separate all the colors, it should follow that all the colors can be combined to get white light. This is true of the additive primary colors, which are red, green, and blue. If we pass light through a red filter and combine it with light through a green filter, we get yellow light. If we combine this with light passed through a blue filter, we get white light, which makes yellow the complementary color of blue. In this way, each pair of primary additive colors combines to give the complement of the third. It is the combination of these colors that allows us to see all the others, because our eyes have three kinds of color receptors, each of which is sensitive to red, green, or blue light, which can be stimulated in various combinations. When we create art with various materials, these combinations will be different, because paint and wax and other material substances exhibit a certain color because of the light they reflect, unlike the actual beams of light we discussed. So when mixing paints, blue and yellow will give green rather than white. All three of the subtractive primary colors, cyan, magenta, and yellow, when combined, will subtract all of the colors from white light, and the mixture will appear black. So the next time you do some painting or see a rainbow, give a moment's thought to the electromagnetic waves that produce all of the vibrant colors we have grown to appreciate. Let's check comprehension.
Now let's move to the summary. The critical angle is defined as the angle of incidence that provides an angle of refraction of 90 degrees. If the angle of incidence is bigger than this critical angle, the refracted ray will not emerge from the medium but will be refracted back into the medium. This is called total internal reflection. Dispersion of light can be defined as the splitting of white light when it passes through a glass prism into its constituent spectrum of colors. For example, violet, indigo, blue, green, yellow, orange, and red. Light spectrum can mean the visible spectrum, the range of wavelengths of electromagnetic radiation which our eyes are sensitive to. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. The Unit 10 will be continued in next video lecture part 3.